Obianuju took her bath with water mixed with bitter leaf and ashes. "Purity is our strength," she said, tying a white cloth around her head, as the steam rose like an offering to the gods. But the story did not start here. It began with the passing of their father, Ichie Okoye. Once upon a time in Aba village, Ichie Okoye, the respected elder and wealthy farmer of Umuagu village, had passed away in his sleep. His 3 daughters, Adara, Nneka, and Obianuju, sat silently, their eyes swollen from tears, their hearts heavy with grief. Whispers began to circulate in the village. Who will inherit Ichie's lands and properties? The answer was clear to many: his brother, Uncle Ebuka. After all, in Umuagu, daughters did not inherit their father's properties. Adara, the eldest, approached Uncle Ebuka. "Uncle, our father taught us how to cultivate the land. We helped him build everything. Shouldn't we have a say in what happens now?" Uncle Ebuka looked at her. His face was rigid. "Adara, you are a woman. Your place is with your husband. The land belongs to the men of this family." Nneka, feisty and bold, stepped forward. "But we have no brothers. We are not married either. Are we to be cast aside like strangers?" Uncle Ebuka's eyes narrowed. "Tradition is tradition. Do not question it." Obianuju, who is the quietest of the sisters, whispered, "Father would not have wanted this." But their pleas fell on deaf ears. The elders convened, and it was decided Uncle Ebuka will inherit Ichie Okoye's estate. The sisters stood together. Their grief now mingled with anger and betrayal. They had lost their father, and now they were losing their home. As the sun set over Umuagu, the sisters made an agreement. They will not accept this injustice. They will fight for their rights, for their father's legacy, and for every daughter denied her inheritance. The next morning, the compound was filled with visitors who had come to pay condolences. People drank palm wine, kola nuts were shared. People gathered in small groups to talk about Ichie Okoye's wisdom. Adara stared at the calf cane chair that once belonged to their father. "Daddy, why did you leave us?" she cried. Nneka cried out loud. "They want us to marry and disappear. That's their plan." Obianuju, kneeling by their late father's mat, clutched his walking stick. "He once told me we were his pride, that we are stronger than 10 sons." The door creaked open. Uncle Ebuka walked in with 2 men. "These are buyers. I am selling the yam barn and part of the land." Adara's eyes widened. "You're selling what?" "We are still mourning. We are yet to bury our father." Uncle Ebuka laughed scornfully. "And should I wait for the gods to write a letter? Your father is gone. It is now my duty." "But we are his blood," Nneka shouted. Ebuka looked at them coldly, then go and cried to the gods, "Women don't own land here." The door slammed as he walked away. Obianuju picked up a dry palm frond from the floor. "Let us go to Nze Madu, the village elder. If we must lose everything, let them say it to our faces." The 3 sisters, heartbroken but determined, stepped into the fading light. What they faced was not just family greed, but the weight of centuries-old tradition. Nze was one of the most respected elders in Umuagu. If anyone could speak the truth, it was him. "Daughters of Okoye," he greeted with a heavy voice, "what brings you here?" Adara bowed. "Nze, we seek justice. Our father did not have sons. We were his only children, but his brother has taken everything from us." Nneka added, "He is selling the land while we are still mourning." Obianuju knelt. "We came to ask, is this the tradition of Umuagu? Are daughters nothing when their father dies?" Nze Madu looked away. "This is the way of our people," he said at last. "It is not personal, it is culture. Culture that steals from women." Nneka backed. He frowned. "Mind your tongue. The land is tied to the name of the father. When he dies, it moves to his brother or male child. This is the law of the land." Adara cried. "Then our hard work, our sweat, does it mean nothing?" Nze sighed deeply. "My daughters, sometimes culture is heavier than justice. But if you must challenge it, you must be ready for what happens." Obianuju rose to her feet. "We are ready." As they walked out, Nzemadu's voice echoed in their heads. "Be careful. You're walking a path that many have feared." Adora, Nneka and Obianuju sat under the Udara tree in their compound. "We must go to the women's court in Umunze," Adora said. "Let them hear our cry." "Do you want us to take our matter to strangers?" Nneka asked. "They are not strangers, they are women elders. They listen when men will not." Obianuju nodded slowly. "It is our only hope." The journey to Umunze took days on foot. They wore their father's mourning cloth and carried a calabash of soil from his farmland. They knelt when they got to the gate of the women's court. The women elders came out, tall and proud, with white chalk on their faces and wrappers tied tightly. "What do you seek, daughters of Okoye?" one asked. Adora placed the calabash on the ground. "Our father is dead. His brothers has taken his lands. We are his only children. We seek justice." The elders looked at each other. "This is a heavy matter," the lead woman said, "but one that must be judged." "You will return in 7 days," another said. "If your hands are clean, the gods will speak." The sisters returned home with hope in their hearts, but as they reached their father's compound, they saw smoke in a distance. Uncle Ebuka started burning the old yam barn. The sisters ran towards the compound, smoke rising like a cross into the evening sky. The yam barn, where their father stored his last harvest, was on fire. Villagers gathered, whispering, "What is happening?" Uncle Ebuka stood with folded arms, a wicked smile on his face. "I warned you not to meddle. Now this is the price." "You burned our father's harvest," Adora shouted, trembling. "It is my harvest now," he replied. Nneka rushed towards him. "You are evil, you will answer to the gods." Men pulled her back. Obianuju picked up a handful of burnt soil. "We will bury this, the gods will remember." That night, they placed the ash-soaked soil beside their father's grave. Adora whispered, "Papa, they are trying to erase you, but we will not let that happen." They returned to their small room, the walls cracked, the roof leaking. Their home was being eaten from the inside, but their spirit had only begun to rise. In 7 days, they will return to Umunze. They prayed that the women's court would hear them louder than the men who silenced them. 7 days passed slowly. The sisters barely slept. Their father's land were now in Uncle Uche's hands, and the memory of the burning barn haunted them each night. On the 7th day, before dawn, Obianuju bathed with water mixed with bitter leaves and ashes. "Purity is our strength," she said, tying a white cloth around her head. They returned to Umunze with heavy hearts but steady feet. The women elders were waiting in a circle, faces calm but firm. In the center was a first stick, the sacred symbol of truth and justice. "You have come," said the lead elder, Nwanyudo. "Now speak and let the earth listen." Adora stepped forward. "We are the daughters of Ichie Okoye. Our father is dead. His brother has taken his land. He says we are only women, that we are not worthy." Obianuju added softly, "We bring soil from our father's grave and ashes from the yam barn. Let the spirits judge." The women passed the first stick from one hand to another. A bowl of water was placed before them. Each sister drank from it. "If your hands are clean," Nwanyudo said, "you shall have no fear." The silence that followed was long and tense. Then the lead elder spoke. "The spirits are not deaf. The earth is not blind. What your uncle did is shameful. But the world does not change by shame alone. You must fight, not just with words, but with proof, with truth, and with courage." Obianuju looked up. "We are ready. You will return to Omuagu. We will send 2 women from this court to witness. The matter will be judged in the open." The day of the judgment came. A large gathering formed under the ancient Iroko tree in Omuagu Square. Even the wind seemed to hold its breath. The women from Umunze arrived in all white regalia. The villagers stared, some in respect, others in mockery. Uncle Ebuka stood proudly with his sons and kingsmen. "Let the women say what they will, the land belongs to men." Chief Madu sat on a wooden stool, the first staff beside him. One of the Omunze elders, Mama Ngozi, stepped forward. "We are not here for noise, we are here for the truth." Adora raised a worn notebook. "This is our father's handwriting. He kept records. He wrote our names beside each parcel of land. He trained us. We have cultivated this land since we were girls." Nneka lifted a calabash. "And this is the broken necklace he gave us, each piece shared amongst us. His voice will not be lost." Obianuju knelt. "We are not begging. The land is our inheritance. It is our right." Uncle Ebuka laughed scornfully. "When did women start speaking like this? This is madness." But the crowd began to murmur, "These girls are brave. They speak sense." The elder from Umunze lifted her hand. "We have heard from both sides, but the earth has not spoken." She knelt and pressed her palm on the soil. "If this land rejects them, let their feet grow cold. But if it is theirs by right and love, let the earth breathe warmth beneath them." The sister stood barefoot on the soil, and tears streamed down Obianuju's cheeks. "It's warm," she whispered. "The ground is warm." That night, Uncle Ebuka called a private meeting with his kinsmen. "These girls are turning the village against us. They must be silenced before other women join them in these shenanigans." One of his allies, Uche, a short man with mean eyes, spoke up. "Let's accuse them of witchcraft. That will shut them down." Ebuka nodded slowly. "Then we must strike first. Let them feel fear." Meanwhile, back in the sister's hut, Obianuju was restless in her sleep. She finally sat up. "I saw Papa in a dream. He said the fight is not only against women, but against darkness." "What does that mean?" Adora asked. "He said we must go to the stream at dawn. We will find a sign." At first light, they went to the stream that passed behind their old farmland. There, floating in the water, was a calabash with white feathers and red cloth. Nnenna shouted, "Juju!" Adora looked around. "They are trying to scare us." Obianuju whispered, "We must not fear." They returned home, poured palm oil over the calabash and burned it. Then they swept the ashes into the wind. "If they want to use fear, let them know that we are not afraid," Nnenna said. But deep down, they knew this was only the beginning. That night, strange sounds filled the compound. Drums beat faintly from the forest. Dogs barked without reason. And a dry wind blew, carrying whispers that made even the bravest tremble. Adora clutched a wooden staff their father once carved. "Whatever comes, we stand." Obianuju lit a small fire in a clay pot and placed dry leaves inside. Smoke rose, sweet and strong. "Papa taught me this," she said, "to chase away spirits sent to harm." The next morning, a surprise visitor came. It was Papa Chukwudi, an old man who once walked with their father. He walked slowly but with a cane, his eyes cloudy with age but with sharp memory. "I heard what is happening," he said. "Your father showed me something before he died." He reached into his wrapper and pulled out an old envelope. Inside was a piece of paper, faded but readable. It was his father's will, and on it, written in his neat, bold handwriting, "All that I own belongs to my daughters, Adora, Nneka, and Obianuju. They are my strength, my joy, and my legacy." Adora gasped. Obianuju clutched her chest. Nneka clenched her fist in victory. "This changes everything," Adora whispered. "Not yet," Papa Chukwudi said. "You must bring this before the village. Let the truth burn in daylight." The next village meeting was called. This time, the sisters did not walk alone. The women elders from Umunze followed them, along with Papa Chukwudi, holding the envelope like a sacred scroll. The villagers gathered in silence. Obianuju stood in front of the iroko tree. "We have come again, not to beg, not to fight, but to bring light." Adora lifted the will high. "Our father wrote this with his own hand. He left his land, his home, and his blessings to us." Gasps spread through the crowd. Papa Chukwudi stepped forward. "I saw him wrote this. I was there. This is no forgery." Uncle Ebuka's face turned dark. "Lies!" This old man was spared. But the chief elder took the paper and examined it. The ink, the seal, this is real. He looked at Uncle Ebuka. You have lied. You burned the band, you stole the land, and you mocked justice. The villagers stared at Uncle Ebuka with cold eyes. Some of his own friends stepped away from him. Obianuju spoke again. Let it be known, we are daughters, not shadows, and daughters too carry blood. For the first time, Uncle Ebuka had no words. Later that evening, as the village slowly returned to calm, the sisters gathered under their father's mango tree. The land was now officially theirs, but the wounds were fresh. Adora placed her hand on the soil. It feels like Papa is still here. Nneka smiled sadly. He is. He's always with us. That week, they cleared the burnt barn and began rebuilding. Women from the village, some inspired, some ashamed, came to help. Even young men joined, curious about the strength of these three sisters. They built a new barn, stronger than the last. They replanted yam, okra, and garden eggs. They laughed, they cried, but they worked. One woman, Mama Ejoma, whispered, "You have lit a fire in this village, for our daughters, for the future." And indeed, the fire of change had begun to burn. One day, a letter arrived from Enugu. It was from their cousin, Chika, whom they have not seen in years. The letter read, "My dear sisters, ahead of all that happened, you have done what many feared to try. I want you to know that I am proud of you. I also have news. A women's rights group here in the city wants to visit Umuagu. They want to hear your story and speak to other women. Are you willing?" Adora read the letter aloud twice. Obianuju looked at his sisters. "Should we say yes?" Nneka nodded. "Let them come. Let the truth grow roots in other lands." So they wrote back with a simple answer, "Let them come." The women came 2 weeks later. They arrived in cars with stickers that read, "Oganihu Nwanyi, Progress for Women." They wore wrappers and gele, not to pretend, not to show off, but to show respect. They listened as the sisters told their story. They asked questions, they took notes. Then they gathered all the women of Umuagu under a tree. One of them, named Ngozi, spoke gently but firmly. "You are not weak, you are not voiceless. The land is yours as much as it belongs to your brothers. The law may be slow, but change begins with courage." The women clapped, some cried. A new dance broke out. The drums played not for celebration, but for awakening. And that night, the village felt different. The men watched from their shadows. Not all were pleased, but none dared to stop it. 3 days after the gathering, Uncle Ebuka visited his brother's sisters. He stood alone, no sons, no kingsmen, just his walking stick and a tired face. He looked down. "I was wrong. I let pride blind me. I hurt you. I dishonored your father, my brother. I want to return what I took, not just land, but my words. I will speak to the council and tell them the truth." Obianuju stared at him for a long time. "And why should we believe you?" "I am old," he whispered, "and ashamed. I do not want to die carrying this sin." The sisters looked at each other. Adora nodded. "Then speak. Let your words heal what your hands broke." That afternoon, Uncle Ebuka went before the council. He confessed everything, from the theft to the fire to the threat, and in doing so, he gave back not just land, but honor. After Uncle Ebuka's confession, the village was no longer quiet. Some men grumbled. They said, "This is not our way. Women cannot inherit land." Others whispered, "But justice is justice. If a man wrote a will, should it not be followed?" Women told their daughters, "Maybe one day, your voices will count too." The elders called for a meeting. They argued deep into the night. But one thing was clear, Umuagu will never be the same again. Their crops grew faster than expected. Cassava leaves waved like greeting hands in the wind. Their goats gave birth to twins. The chickens clucked with joy. One evening, Adara sat alone near the fire. Her sisters were asleep. She wiped her tears. "Papa, thank you for choosing us, even if the world refused to understand. Sometimes, strength is not about fighting, but about not giving up. One day, a jeep drove into the village square. A woman in a black robe stepped out. She was tall and fierce-looking, with short natural hair. She was Judge Amaka, one of Nigeria's best female activists. She met Adara and her sisters. They spoke for hours about land, about law, about fear and bravery. Before she left, she said, "Let me know when you're ready to speak to the world." Obianuju whispered, "The world?" She nodded, "Yes. This story must go viral." The elders called for another gathering. Judge Amaka and other women from nearby towns attended. This time, the council allowed women to speak. Adora stepped forward. "We are not trying to destroy culture. We are asking to be seen. Our father gave us his land. Why must we beg to keep it?" The hall was quiet. Then the chief elder stood. "Maybe it is time we look back at our ways again. Not all old things are good." A new law was suggested. A father's will, when written, must be respected, no matter the gender of the child. The vote was passed. When the new law was passed, women danced. Uncle Ebuka packed his things and left the village. He could not bear the shame, the whispers. Some said he left for Onitsha. Others said he joined his brother in Abakaliki. But one thing was clear: he could not stay in a village where daughters had voices, and the truth had won. No one stopped him, not even his sons. Few years after, the sisters rebuilt their father's house. New mud, new roof, stronger walls. Above the door, they carved a name: Ulo Nwanyi Nwere Ike, the house where a woman has power. People laughed at first, but soon visitors came to take pictures. And slowly, the laughter turned into respect. Women across Nigeria were now bold to start sharing their own stories. If you were moved by this story, don't just watch. Be a part of our community. Please subscribe, drop a comment, and share with someone who believes in justice. New story drops every Friday. This is Stories with Cecylia, where African voices rise.